I was actually just at the comic shop yesterday. Yesterday on Saturday, I went down to go see them and drop off a variety of paintings. They were kind enough to put a bunch of, I think they ended up getting 6 or 7 paintings to put up to display and sell throughout the comic shop. And then Jason even bought one. He bought my Venom painting. And that's the cool thing about Jason and Paula. I always talk about the comic shop itself and what you can get there, which is a variety of things: comics, authorized CGC dealer, toys, graphic novels, and so much more. But Jason and Paula are just really cool people, and they love supporting creators like myself. They have supported my artwork for a very long time. They have a couple of pieces already, and they have also let me come there and live paint during different things and sell my artwork at the comic shop. They have all kinds of artists there all the time. Pretty much anytime I have shown up, there's at least 3 to 4 artists sitting at the one of their tables, either discussing or doing some artwork or any of that thing. So it's a really cool place just to go and be a creator. If you're trying to find a new way, if you're an up-and-coming artist and trying to find a new way to get your artwork out, go talk to Jason and Paula and see what you can do there. They even have a section, a full big stand that's almost as tall as I am, filled with blank covers that local artists have drawn on and done stuff on. It's fantastic. They sell them, and then the artist gets a a big percentage of it, and they have a really cool working deal with local artists. Kingdom of Comics has also become a sponsor of this show. Jason just told me yesterday he's going to be a sponsor as long as I allow him, which is a very long time. So please, please, please head over to Kingdom of Comics. If you're in Florida, go down to the comic shop. It's like going to like a very cool, it feels like home there. You go, you chill, you relax, you get some comics to read. There's pop vinyls. I just picked up this one called God Country. Jason actually told me about it himself and made it sound really good, so I snagged that. And then I also got these 2 new pops for the podcast desk. We got Ahsoka and Raphael, and I will be going back to get the rest of TMNT at a later date. But please, and if you can't go there, I know there's a lot of people that are watching outside of Florida, so head over to facebook.com/Kingdom of Comics Shop and message them, purchase something there. They're working on the website, so there's going to be a full website where you can buy some stuff as well, and there's going to be some really cool things coming up in the near future. Make sure to get ready for February 13th. I'm going to do an episode with them pushing their next big thing. So big shout out to Kingdom of Comics, Jason, Paula. Love you guys. It was great to see you yesterday, and let's get this mess of a show on a roll. And here's a fun fact for me. If you want me to do something special on the show, put please and you'll get it. What's up, Kyle Nunez? Good to see you. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in for a special edition, Sunday edition of Back Talk with Bauer. I almost feel like that Sunday morning show on CBS or some things. But this is episode number 40, and we've got lots to go. If you are if you like the video at the beginning that just played, you like my logos, you like the paintings behind me, you want to get one of these Back Talk with Bauer parental advisory t-shirts, head over to jbauerart.com. There's a merch shop that gets all the t-shirts, and then there's an art shop that has all the prints and paintings and all that good stuff. Or you can head over to Kingdom of Comics and buy some paintings. Make sure to keep out for the limited edition prints runs that are coming out. The Powerpuff Girls one is dropping tomorrow. You'll have about a week and a half to get it. So keep an eye on that. And if you buy one of the Powerpuff Girls ones, you get into a drawing for last month's Mandalorian print. And that'll be one of the only ways to get one now of the last month's print. As soon as they sold out, they're done, they're gone. Bye-bye. And then one more plug, Inked Marketing. That is who is actually sponsoring this specific episode, and they've been sponsoring the show for about a month now. But they're the cool people that helped set up this podcast. Set up this episode, this interview. I am part of the NSC Roadshow. It's a cool podcasting group that helps interview and bring on different Kickstarter groups, Indiegogo, to help fund their projects and get their names out there more and get their stuff going and get attention to their books and whatever Kickstarter campaigns they're going on. just like today's guest, I would like to welcome Justin Gray. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thank you so much for taking time to come out on the show. I know it's a little early, but yeah, it's nice to have you on, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Same here. Thanks for having me on. It's a little early, but I think I was up at 4 this morning. So.
Oh man, what are you doing up at 4?
Sometimes I don't sleep evenly, so I'm up on caffeine now.
I feel that is a creator. Like if you're a creator, or most creators I know, like part of the stuff that comes with being a creator is you don't sleep well.
Yeah, my sleep schedule can flip flop sometimes. I mean, there was over the summer I was waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, this is not fun. But
no,
it's an adventure. So.
Yeah, I still have a day job, so it kind of keeps me in a relatively good sleep schedule because like I have to go to sleep to go, but like actually staying asleep. And then I have 3 dogs who all like to go outside to the bathroom like different times at night. Yeah. So between not being able to sleep normally and my freaking dogs, I never sleep. But
I have a dog problem, and I also have a cat alarm clock.
Oh geez. Aren't those so fun? Don't we love animals?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're on here to actually, we're going to talk about a variety of things because you've done a lot. Holy cow. Your Wikipedia is very long and there is a lot to it. It's like, as I'm going through, I'm getting more and more excited to chat with you. But the main thing to have you on is to talk about your current Kickstarter, Spicy Pulp 5. So what is this? I know it's the 5th installment for a long going story. What is this current Kickstarter about, and how can people help out?
Well, Spicy Pulp was a mixture of things that came together. I obviously had been doing monthly comics for a considerable amount of time. And when I started doing Kickstarters on my own, I had done some with Jimmy. We had done bigger books and graphic novels. And I thought, I don't think the way to go is a slim volume. I'd actually tried it and it worked, but I didn't feel like it was enough meat and enough material. So I thought a big 64-page comic, packed full of material and content was the way to go. And that's when I started doing that. And I started taking, because I have so many different kinds of stories I'd like to tell in different genres, I thought this is my opportunity to do that sort of anything goes book where I can have science fiction, fantasy, sword and sorcery, crime, horror, supernatural, all those things, like classic pulpy comic things. And in the vein of the, the 70s and 80s European comics where they were sexy and there was a lot of different material being done, stuff in metal hurlant and heavy metal. And that's what I wanted to do. And I just said, let me just try that. So I started with a fledgling character. The first character was Lady Redbeard, which is a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. And she, I wanted it to be that I could do anything with these characters, and I wasn't held down after years of being sort of cordoned off into continuity and IP and everything else. I wanted to just be able to do anything. So I get her lost in the Bermuda Triangle, which ultimately is a nexus between time and reality. So she can do anything, go anywhere.
Okay.
And that's what happened. The first story tells a sort of an origin story about how she gets into the Bermuda Triangle and how she starts to meet all kinds of interesting people and creatures. And then I like to tell one story in a complete 2-part thing. So you get 2 issues and you're going to get a complete story that's about 60 pages long. And then you have either short contained stories or smaller serialized stories featuring different characters and different genres.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah. So issue 1 and 2 is Lady Redbeard. And then we switch over to 3 and 4 being the Road Witch, which is a supernatural character who, sadly enough, I do a lot of driving and I see a lot of those roadside crosses with the flowers where people have perished. And being me, as I'm driving around, I'm thinking, well, what if there was a way to summon a spirit from that there? And once you summon that, they had to do what you wanted them to do within the context of a mission or whatever it was. So you could summon the Road Witch and she would be, almost helpless to do your bidding. And I thought this was an interesting concept to go with. So that's what the 3 and 4 is, a self-contained origin of the Road Witch.
Okay.
And she's been alive for a long time. So then I started putting together a story about how H.P. Lovecraft summons her at one point in the 1920s. And so I can do a 20s piece in that vein. And now we're back with issue 5, and we're kicking off another 2-parter. 5 and 6 are going to have a complete Lady Redbeard story. And this time she's been getting up to mischief and pissed off the Emperor of the Universe, and he's doing everything he can to have her killed. And she's doing everything she can not to be killed, and she ends up in space prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a fun. It's not like at first one I was like, all right, how crazy can I get? And then this one I was like, let's just go nuts and have like, I want to do a women in prison, space prison thing, very 70s exploitation, but do different things with things that we haven't seen before. And that's what I'm in the middle of doing. And then, like I said, there are smaller stories. There's and I did this issue also wraps up the Dudro the Barbarian storyline, which is a sword and sorcery rom-com of sorts.
Man, you got everything in there, don't you?
Yeah, I just thought it would be funny because I was watching an old movie from the 80s, and I think it's Death Slayer or whatever. And I was watching, I'm like, this would never fly. You could never have this misogynistic a story. And I'm like, it's just funny. Like the barbarians, like they wouldn't have a clue. It's like, this is what I do. And if they ran into someone that was like, what's wrong with you? I thought that would be kind of a funny way for him. He's like, I'm a barbarian. This is barbarian stuff we're doing. And interacting with this female, I was like, no, you don't get sex for rescuing me from an ogre. That's not how that works. He's like, yes, it is. It works 3 out of 10 times. So that was the fun of that.
Nice. Very cool. And I know if you, so my first question would be, so I get, as being part of this roadshow thing, Kevin over at NSC Live, he shoots over like, what do you call them? Basically like a little bio of what's going on and talks about the book a little bit, talks about you, kind of explaining the Kickstarter a little bit. And it's like a quick little run through of everything. And at the very end, it said something to the fact of, again, this is an adult book or adult comic or something like that. And I actually named that our episode that because it really stuck to me. So what makes this an adult comic book? Because that was said at least twice in that little briefing.
Yeah, because there's content and material and dialogue and there's a ton of nudity, especially in this one. Again, it's me having fun. This whole book is about me almost entertaining myself more than anything else and doing things that I would never be allowed to do anywhere else.
Right.
And I said I was a big fan of heavy metal, and everyone was always running around naked in Richard Corbin den. So I thought I'm gonna have a little fun with that, and but have it be part of the story as opposed to it just being part of the fantasy realm in which it takes place. So I worked it into the story where there's just not a lot of opportunities for Lady Redbeard to be dressed, but she's also really aggravated by it. So she's kind of like, can I get some clothes? Every situation she's in. And when you read the story, it's not gratuitous, and it's not. When I say adult, I'm not talking about XXX or anything like that.
Right.
There is inferments, and Dude Bro the Barbarian has a sex cult. And like there's the ongoing joke is what's the difference between a wizard and a sorcerer. And the female character has the thing, she just keeps falling for these magical types, and the guy's like, what's wrong with you? They're bald, they wear robes all day long. How is this attractive to you? And they're always they're going to sacrifice you to some kind of alien god. You know that, right?
Right.
I was like, no, it's not like that this time. And that's the kind of stuff I just think is funny. So there's material. I mean, there's material in there.
You got to put that in nowadays because there's so many people with the cancel culture and just so many twitchy people, and that's the nicest way I could put it. It's just very twitchy people that, like, if you just throw it out there and it's a comic book, a lot of moms and people think, oh, it's a comic book for kids. No, not every comic book is for kids, especially nowadays. We're all the kids that grew up with them are now adults, so the adults want stuff to read. So we're gonna have some more adult ones. You go to the kids section, you stay out of here.
Right. But I don't know necessarily how many kids are stumbling onto comics as much as earlier generations did because of the availability and the niche marketing and stuff. I think it's more driving the show stuff. I think people who are used to the tiered level of being exposed to things from cartoons to the films. But definitely, I mean, I want them to know it's mature, and I know for a fact it's not for everyone. And I know someone will probably be offended by something because that's just the nature of how things are.
Right.
But I'm just saying, this is not for everyone, and you don't have to be mad about it. And it's just fun. It's just meant to be fun and escapist.
Right. Now, and we'll get back a little bit later in the episode to talking more about the Kickstarter and picking up. But you talked about you're kind of bored, not bored, but you were tired of being locked into continuity and kind of staying in a thing and created this to go a little bit wild and everything. You've been writing forever. Now, one of my first things is, have you Googled yourself recently?
No.
So I Googled to try to, because, I got some information on you, and, I try to come in. I don't want to get too much because I love going to the back and forth and actually having conversations.
Sure.
But if you Google yourself, did you know you were born in 1900?
That I did know, because someone sent that to me and said, I'm like, I don't know why it's like that, but I don't even care. I'm like, great. I was born, I'm a century baby.
You're 121 years old. So congratulations. You look phenomenal. I will give you that one.
Thank you. A lot of vegetables.
Oh, Ted Davies just popped in. Hello, sir. Thank you for popping in. I actually talked to Ted yesterday because we're working on being on each other's podcasts. And I told him you were going to be on this morning. He's like, oh, that's awesome. He's a fan of yours. And so thank you for popping in, Ted.
Hello.
So how did you... I'm always interested in how people get into what they do. So how do you get into writing and into comic book writing?
The trajectory was comics when I was young. Just the hobby and the love of the escapism is a big thing to me, and it was at the time when I started reading. And then obviously the art, so I tried to draw. And when I started drawing, I was like, I can draw something, what it is, but it's never going to be what I see in my head. So at some point I just said, I can't go down that road, because it's just going to be very frustrating for me.
Right.
Not to be able to be as good as I want to be. And regardless, I can see, I have a pretty fair understanding of like when I should go crazy for something, and I don't care if I fail, and other times where I'm like, maybe I should leave that to the professionals. So that's how that happened. And then I got into writing, and I didn't necessarily want to write comics for us right in the beginning. And then I started looking at all the different avenues of publishing, and I kind of had in the back of my head, I'm like, boy, it would be nice if I could just maybe write something. And my motivation at that time was, I think a lot of people's, which was to be the next person who does X-Men, next person who writes Spider-Man. I think, when you're a late teenager, early 20, that's kind of, for me it was, and I think this for a lot of people. And then when I finally did get into comics, I pretty quickly understood that it wasn't as romantic as I thought it was, in terms of, it's a business. And right at the beginning, I was kind of like, we're going to be hanging out with Stan Lee, the bullpen. There was going to be all these people walking through. Right. And, it wasn't like that. And at that time, that was a time that had changed, and it was already, Marvel had already been for sale at one point. Marvel Knights were being done, Jimmy and Joe. And it was a different atmosphere than I anticipated it being. And as someone who doesn't really function well in a corporate structure or an office structure, after years of being blue-collar restaurant worker, service industry, it just didn't really work for me that way. But I kept pushing to do the writing, and eventually, it was down to editor saying, "All right, we'll see what happens." But for the most part, nobody. It was, he doesn't have a name, nobody knows who he is, and he hasn't done anything.
Right.
I went backwards. I went into mainstream comics, and then I went indie afterwards.
Oh, okay. All right. So what is, first off, hi, Dina, over at the HWWS WebTV YouTube family. Thank you for popping in, Dina. So what is the first big comic you got into with getting into the more mainstream stuff?
Ironically, it was original stuff, because Wildstorm had decided to launch a new group of comics, and Jimmy and I came up with 2 properties for them. One was 21 Down, which you can see in the back.
Okay, yep, I saw that one pop up a few times.
And the other one was the Resistance. And right out of the gate, we were doing those books, and they were not creator owned, but they were original titles. Not with, and then it was the sort of moving. They didn't do as well sales wise as where everybody wanted them to be, but there was a lot of people who really liked 21 Down. There was a lot of people in Hollywood interested in doing something with it. Oh wow! But it just never materialized.
Right.
And I think after that, I remember I did Chastity Reimagined with Jimmy for Brian Pulido. And I did some Vampirella stuff. And then we started doing Hawkman.
Nah, yeah, I saw that pop in. Now, when you keep saying Jimmy, you mean Jimmy Palmiotti, correct?
Yeah, Jimmy Palmiotti. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, you're good. I actually know who he is because I am friends with his brother, Tony, who does like a bunch of stuff for podcasts down here and everything. So I've been friends with Tony for a long time, and I've met Jimmy a few times here and there when he's been in town. So I thought it was kind of cool. We had that little connection that we both know.
Great.
So you've been working with Jimmy for a good while, because I've seen a bunch of names pop in through there of you guys collabing on and working together.
Yeah, we spent almost about 15 years collaborating on different properties.
That is fantastic.
For DC, some of our own stuff, some stuff from Marvel and Dark Horse and IDW, and yeah, we worked together for quite a long time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you get into I know there was Hawkman. You guys worked on that for a little while. There was also I actually have a few covers of the Power Girls that I believe I know Jimmy worked on, so I'm sure your name is on there as well.
Yeah, with Jimmy and Amanda and I did the first 12 issues of the Power Girl series.
Nice. That's so cool. Now, are these ones that because you kind of are getting into different ones, are these ones that like you really wanted to do Power Girl, or like was it a cool moment for you, or was it something like, oh, okay, we'll just do Power Girl?
No, it was, I wanted to do it, and it was fun, and it was, again, sort of where my heart is at in stuff, because there was a push for it to be a different kind of book than what we wanted it to be. And my argument was that I'm not always on the same page with I want to say not just editorial, but with a plan that says, you know, this is how we're going to move these properties forward, or this is the direction we want everything to go in. Because I feel like if everything's going in one direction, then it might as well just all be the same thing.
Right.
So the idea initially was sort of Power Girl was going to be much more morose, much more like, oh, the world's got so much weight on my shoulders, and you know, I've come from like the last of my kind, even on top of being from another dimension, time, you know, all that stuff with continuity. And I was like, she's gorgeous, she's rich, she has superpowers, and she's sad. I was like, no. I'm like, you have to be having some fun with that, right? And you wanted it to be not silly, but have a completely different tone from the more serious elements of it, but not boring or silly or goofy or jokey the whole time, but just have a different vibe altogether, as a more optimistic, upbeat kind of book. And that's what we ended up doing, and people really responded to it. Nice.
Hello, Kevin from NSC Live. Good to see you, sir. And Ink to Marketing. Thank you for popping in. Now, when you get into, because Power Girl is always an interesting one, because a lot of people, I think it's gotten better over the last few years, because guys like you have done more interesting stories and kind of delve into her character more. But was it hard writing it because everybody kind of looks at her funny because she's got, you know, a big chest, and a lot of people just know Power Girl because she's a little bit more full figured and everything. Was it hard getting in there and kind of breaking that stereotype a bit and giving more character to her? Or
no, not at all, because the first thing I do with those, like with Spicy Pulp, the first thing I do is go, oh, this is a thing, oh, look at this, you know, it's like, oh, this is what we're all worried about, breasts. We've never seen breasts before,
right?
Like I mean, I know plenty of women, and women with larger breasts, they go through situations that aren't necessarily comfortable for them. And while they can have a sense of humor about it, after a while, it gets kind of, you know, it's like anything else. You know, if someone's pointing something out to you and that's their main focus and that's all that you are, regardless of who you are, whatever that thing is, it can become frustrating or annoying.
Hey, and, hold on one second.
No worries.
Go terrorize the neighborhood. My little Chihuahua Coco, she loves being in the room with me, but I know it's just a matter of time until she hears one of the other dogs bark, and then she starts barking, and it gets on the podcast. It's great.
No worries. My dog's always doing that. I'm surprised he hasn't started yet.
It's just like you're just waiting for some noise to get him.
And he sounds like he's being murdered, so it's crazy.
Yeah, luckily she just kind of grumbles a little bit, little barks. It wasn't too loud this time. She's got a pretty good one for such a small dog. It's ear piercing. Now we get into, I know you worked on Jonah Hex as well, correct?
Yes.
Now how involved, because I believe Jimmy created that himself? If I'm
No,
not...
no. Jonah Hex was created in the 70s by John.
Okay, he kind of brought it back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We brought it back. Well, it was at Vertigo for a period of time with Tim Truman, and then they wanted to pull it back into the DC universe. So that's what we did back. We started writing in 2005. I think it came out in 2006.
Okay. And how was that experience? Did you get to add some new stuff to it? Was that, you know?
That was my favorite experience of work for hire.
Oh, wow.
It was, I don't know. We did things that probably won't happen again, just the way that things are now. We essentially did whatever we wanted. And we would say, we want this artist. We want Eduardo Risso to do this issue. We want Jordi Benet to do this issue. Right after the first 6 issues, and we kept taking more and more ownership of the book as much as you could when you don't own the book.
Right.
And you know, we were like on the coloring, we were on the lettering, we were more involved in that book than you're probably allowed to be. But the editors loved it because they didn't have to do much, because we would write, because there were single issue stories, we would have 5 to 10 issues in the can just waiting for the right artist to come free. So there was never going to be a missed deadline. There was never going to be a concern because we'd have 3 or 4 books being done at one time. In fact, we were always being told to slow down, to stop putting out the material.
Wow. I guess that's kind of good though, you know, because you're doing such a good job. They're like, just slow down a bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but they also left us alone because they didn't have any expectations for it. Right. Okay. At that point, it was probably the tip of it, because sometimes sometimes the publishers need to keep an IP. They keep stretching it for their ownership of it. So they'll roll something out with low expectations just to make sure that the lawyers and everything are still set, and the copyright, trademarks. But we just saw it as an opportunity, and my attitude was like, I get to do a spaghetti western, and nobody is paying attention. So every once in a while they pay attention and I get smacked down for something, but everything was sort of just hand the books in, get the books out, and people liked it. I just wish they would have used the books as reference for the film, but that was
going to be my next question. I've never watched the film. I've heard a lot of bad stuff, and I've heard people that are a fan of the comic book could not stand the movie and stuff. So you are not a fan of the movie?
It is what it is. It's not how I would do it. And I know if they gave us a pass at the script, it would have been a completely different film. And that just is, that's just because we wouldn't have done. It was a hard thing to do because the guys that wrote the script are directors as well, and they didn't get to direct it. Right. So, and they have a very specific style that can't be plug and play with anyone to come in and try and take that kind of script and make it work, even though it was, it was unconventional in a lot of ways. And Josh looked great. I mean, seeing him in person with the whole thing was pretty amazing. But yeah, it was a great.
Yeah, I've heard different things of that, and I want to say hi to Paul. I will butcher that last name. Is that a friend of yours?
Maybe it's Carenti. I don't know.
Carenti? Yeah, that looks like Carenti. But hi, Paul. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. I would love to do. I've thought about it a minute of doing podcasts, because we've talked about a couple of things now of like how stuff like shows and movies from like that were supposed to go from comics or ideas and stuff. I think it'd be really cool to do like a podcast of stuff that never happened. Like, is there so many Batman films, TMNT? I know there's at least like 7. I think I watched a YouTube channel once of 7 TMNT films that never happened. Or like even stuff that happened, but it was supposed to be totally different to begin with. Because I'm sure maybe when they were starting, they were going off the comics for Jonah Hex, and then shit went haywire, or like the directors
were going off the Vertigo comics, I think, which was strange.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there was more supernatural stuff happening in the Vertigo interpretation of Hex, and we went more spaghetti western, Sergio Leone. Okay. 1970s again, just sort of where the character was born, what the character was from, and just kind of cranked it up to to the 2000s. So
gotcha. All right, so we're gonna take a real quick break. It's just gonna be a couple commercials real quick, and then we will be right back on the other side.
Cool.
I'm David Thompson.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester, and we're the hosts of Lights, Thunder, Action.
Join us weekly as we discuss the latest news in comic book movies and the film industry at large.
As well as the Trilogy of Trilogies, where we review trilogies you vote for us to talk about in the Tournament of Trilogies.
We go live on our Lights, Thunder, Action Show Facebook page and the HWWS WebTV YouTube channel every weekend.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date with the Lights, Thunder, Action Show.
And support everybody that's in the HWWS Web TV network, myself, Lights, Thunder, Action, Hanging with Web Show, Saturday Morning Cartoons, Willow's Pillow Talk, and so many more. But yeah, we're back. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this early Sunday morning. I greatly appreciate it. I am chatting with Justin Gray, comic book writer, and we're talking about his past stuff, but we're also making sure to plug the Spicy Pulp 5 Kickstarter. You can find it on the description down below. If you're catching this later, I'll try to have it in every description that is on there. When does the Kickstarter end, Justin?
February 12th.
February 12th. So we're into, and we'll get into this a little bit closer to the end of the show, but it's fully funded. I know it's weird we're having a conversation when it's fully funded, but there's more stretch goals. And the other cool thing is the more money this one gets, the more he can do and add to things and get into the next story as well. So, I know it says fully funded, but you can still back it up, get all the awesomeness that's in there, get the cool stretch goals. And there's another big stretch goal that's coming up. So please go and support that. So we get we've talked about some of the DC stuff, talked about some other things here and there. Now I have to talk about this one because one of our people on our network is Kevin from the Main Event with Kevin and Mia. It's another show in our little HWWS Web TV network. He is a big Friday the 13th fan. And I believe I read something that you did like a 7-part series or something like that.
It was a 6-issue miniseries. Yes,
that's fantastic. So, what was? I just have to ask because I know he'll get a kick out of it. But what was that about? Like, how do you tell another story of Friday the 13th?
You start with the lake, and how many kids have drowned in that lake, and why. And that was the idea of just mining the history beyond what had happened in the film.
Oh wow!
And it was great. I believe Adam Archer did the art on that. It was gorgeous.
Okay.
It was 6 issues, and we tried to do some different things again. It's almost like every time I get into a genre, I try and subvert it. So as Friday the 13th as a parable for premarital sex or whatever. So we tried to have some fun with that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And was that, were you a big fan of Friday the 13th before getting into it? Is it another one that was like really cool to work on?
Yeah. I mean, I love horror.
Okay.
And, I'm going to plug it here anyway, but we just had one of our books, Jay Baruchel co-wrote and directed Random Acts of Violence, which was released this summer on Shudder, the streaming network.
Oh, nice.
And he did an amazing job on it. Everyone, Joanna Brewster is in it, and I'm blanking. Jesse Chabot, I think.
Okay.
The co-writer, and then I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Names are hard. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, that was. I love horror. We've done a bunch of different horror things. I have another horror book that I'm doing now, which is The Standstill. Which just last month I shipped out almost all of them. Is just waiting for a couple people to finish their surveys. But that one went out this month for 4 issues, and that's one of the things. The thing about Spicy Pulp is that it's not just this 5. If you come to the Kickstarter, you can have tons of material because each issue is 60 to 64 pages, and then there's trades of 1 and 2. And I'm going to make a trade of 3 and 4. And there's just a ton of material. So if you've never read anything, it was a treasure trove of stuff to get into.
And that's kind of the cool thing, because I've had you on, and I had another, again, blanking on names. It's Connor, and he did Swords and Solace. And that was an interview I did earlier this month for his Kickstarter. And that's the really cool thing about these Kickstarter things. If you're getting into ones that are a few in, most of the Kickstarters, if you go a little, and it's not even that high, like some of them are the first couple of tiers of putting money into it, you get all the previous stuff. These guys know that you may just be hearing about it now, and you guys are kind enough to make sure you're able to catch up onto everything else that happened, so you can still be a part of the current Kickstarter. And I think that's always very cool.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially, you know, this summer has been rough on comics in terms of getting them, and you know, I mean, that's the past summer, obviously, and everything else that was happening.
This whole past year, everything like 10
mark.
Yeah, it's
I'll hit you up after.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, you know, because my stuff that I do, this podcast was actually created because of everything that went down with COVID and stuff. All my stuff was canceled on my side projects for live painting and going out and doing things. So I created this so I wasn't bored and, you know, twitching and stuff, and kind of just to keep my mind off of the world burning, you know. I'm like, I don't want to look at any of that. Let's talk to my friends and let's ignore everything. Because God, but it's been very cool to see different people. I know, and I know stuff has been hell for everybody, and it's been very hard. But there's also been some very cool stuff that has come out of this. Some very cool new ways of doing things, learning how to do things. I mean, streaming like this has taken leaps and bounds over the past year or more. So, you know, I hope even more, you know, eventually we can get back to normal. But I think you got to look at some of the good stuff that's gone down in here, and chances to work on some more stuff into that aspect. But, you know, we've been talking about all the stuff you've been writing. And again, if you go onto your Wikipedia, you can just keep scrolling. I don't know when you sleep. I think that's part of your problem. You just don't stop writing and keep.
It's actually harder to do it now because there's so much involved with these books that, you know, I mean, that's the fun part. I can't wait to write it. And then, you know, that's like 10% of the whole process. But there's definitely a ton of stuff. I love working with the artists. I love reaching out and finding people and saying, you want to work on this, here, give it a read, and, you know, see if they get excited. And if they're excited, I know that they're gonna be interested in doing it, because so many times you definitely have. And I've talked to people, and I've had a few come across my desk where it's kind of like, oh, I'm doing this, all right. But when I'm doing these books, this is all about, we're making comics because we want to make comics. We're not making comics for any other reason other than to have fun, and then to, you know, to express that to other people so that they enjoy it, which to me is.
Well, and I feel like it might be, you know, I know not everybody has the extra income at the moment, but a lot of people have, over the past year, a lot of free time. So they're really looking for new stuff to read and things of that nature. So to be a part of it, and I think it always is a cool thing that you get to be a part of it. The comic comes out because of the money you put in. It's not just automatically comes out like all the other big time comics. Right. You send them their money and it gets funded, and it actually, you're a part of helping out. So I think that also why a lot of people are behind these Kickstarters, and especially the comic book ones, because they feel like they're more a part of it.
And there's more of a, on my side too. I mean, I love that they're getting it straight from me. Mm-hmm. You know, that they're helping me pay the artists.
Right.
Really important to me that these are people who want to do this for a living, and they don't necessarily have the opportunity to do it in the venues that they would like to do it in. But they're making a living, and I like collaborating with them, and I like the idea that I had to teach myself all these different, because I used to be, I would hand in a script, and aside from Jonah Hex, where it was like we're involved, a lot of times just hand in the script and wait, and then get notes, and then that's it. And then when you get the box, you get the comic in the box. And so I had to teach myself all the back end, the pre-production. I had to teach myself lettering. I tried to teach myself coloring. It was disastrous.
Everybody's got to. I always love, because you got to branch out and try different things. And I started off as an artist. I started off doing some coloring stuff, drawing and coloring. Sure. And then, like in high school, my teacher made me start painting. So I realized that I had a really good knack at painting. And then as I've gotten, I realized I love talking on podcasts, and people said I had a good way of talking and I can keep a conversation going. So I started doing podcasts. But I've dived into stuff going, no, I should not be here. I'm going to go sit over there. You continue. And there's a lot of my artist friends that do some very cool stuff. And I'm like, you're awesome. I'll buy your stuff, but I ain't touching it. Yeah, and like to me, a person that can go and write an entire story. First off, a person that can go write an entire paragraph without it sounding like utter garbage or having every spelling error known to man impresses the hell out of me. Because I'm more of a a talker. I'm a conversationalist. I cannot, like, because even when I emailed you, I had to reread it 3 times to make sure I wasn't sounding like a moron, because I can't write. It's never been my thing. So for a person like you impressed the hell out of me that you can go and do, tell all these stories and have all this in there.
It's one of those things that I just couldn't. I was doing it, and then before I thought about doing it for anything other than doing it, and then realizing that if I wasn't doing it, I was cranky.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
I had this creative outlet, and I kept going for different things. But I wanted, because you're a painter, and recently I also drive for Instacart, a shop.
Oh, okay.
So I was delivering to some, and some of the people I deliver to are incredibly well-to-do. And I have it delivered to this one place, gorgeous house, and they have all glass in the front, and I see this enormous painting of Prince. And
wow!
I was like, wow! I don't even know. It's not a Prince, that's for sure. And that thing is a huge painting, a portrait of him, and I was just kind of like, that's pretty cool. I've never seen one like that.
I've always blown, because I love going to, as an artist, I love going to different art festivals and stuff like that when we were allowed to go to them and they were happening. There's I live in Florida, so there's a big one that happens at Disney Springs, downtown Disney, depending on what you call it. But now it's Disney Springs, and they fill the whole area up with artists. And I would just go there just to get inspired. And there's people that I still have not figured out how they do it and have the patience, but it'll be multi canvases like drilled into each other and all connected to make this one big painting. And they're actually not even like side by side, because I've done some side by side ones, but they're like pieced together. So they're, it pops off and stuff. And I've always been inspired by stuff like that. So it's really cool when you go and you randomly show up somewhere and there's like a beautiful piece of art. Like my wife yells at me all the time because I'll sit there and I'm like going like this. She goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to figure out how they painted it."
Have you been to the Dolly Museum?
I have. That was really cool. I don't know if it hit me as it would with other people. I don't, for some reason, a lot of stuff hit me right, but other ones I'm just like, okay, that's pretty cool. It doesn't hit me as much as other stuff. Sure. And I have not figured out why. I'm more of a newer age artist. I love street art. I'm very big into graffiti, very bright colors and stuff like that. And then the reason I got into comics is because of cover art. I have so many comic books. I've never like actually read the inside or stayed on top of the story on the inside. Right. But I love the cover, and it's so beautiful and gorgeous, and I frame it and I keep it. Now, Paul in the chat actually brings up a cool question, and I want to do it as a part of a 2-part question. He asks, do you have any favorite comics that you read when you grew up? And then my part off that would be, I had a question. Is there something you have, like a favorite comic or a favorite hero that you have not been able to write on yet, haven't had the chance, but want to?
This is complicated for me to answer. I should just be a simple question. But there are, I wanted to write the Hulk for a long time. And then I read with Joe Bennett, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, the writer. And I was like, I'm not doing the Hulk. I'm like, I'm not going to do any better than this, even on my best day. I'm like, this is the Hulk that I wanted to read, that I would have tried to write and would not have even come close to it. So as far as that goes, and there's always kinds of characters. There are characters definitely where I wanted to write at one point, and now I don't really want to mess with them at all. And as far as favorite comics go, I tend not to have a favorite anything, because I'm so like interested in everything that I can't really. This is the definitive thing. There's definitely. I mean, I had been reading superhero comics, and then before I got into heavy metal and stuff, I somehow got a hold of that I wasn't supposed to be holding on to when I was younger. But I think when I saw Frank Miller do Ronin, it switched something in my head, and I was kind of like, wait, this is not Daredevil. This is not, Wolverine. This is something completely different and a completely new style. And I think it was Lynn Varda's coloring that one at that point. The coloring was so unique to me. And then I was more interested in, I still read superhero comics. I still enjoyed them but I was more interested in things that were outside of that. Not so much, more the kind of stuff that I put into Spicy Pulp, the things that I want to see that aren't realistic, and maybe they don't always follow 3-act structure, and maybe they don't always have to be the, I'm not trying to win an Eisner, and I just want to have fun and read stuff that's entertaining to me.
Right.
So that when I started looking at other kinds of books, I just recently was in my basement looking at stuff that I haven't looked at in years and years, and I'm like, oh, I got to rebag and board some of these John Byrne Fantastic Fours that I actually had subscribed to back coming out in like 83. So that was kind of fun to rediscover some of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question and then I just lost it because this show is ADD kid friendly, so that happens quite often around here. I was trying to think what it was. Oh, yeah, there it is.
So sometimes I get lost. You have to rein me in.
Yeah. Now I don't know if you would be able to notice it or not, but I feel like as an artist and a painter and things like that, and not really a writer, and you as a writer, I feel like we would read a comic book a bit differently. Like you're looking more into the story itself. I'm reading it going, oh, pretty picture. Oh, pretty picture. How do you draw that? So do you feel the same way? Do you read as a writer, read anything kind of different than a normal person?
I don't think so, because my biggest thing is suspension of disbelief. If I'm in the moment, and sometimes my problem is reining that part of my brain in that says, this doesn't make sense. That's a plot hole. The character just changed the way that they acted for the last 20 minutes. It's just hard for me not to do that. It's hard for me not to do, like, people don't want to watch a movie with me because, like, I think we were like just past the credits on Collateral, and I was like, bing, 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 bing. And he looked at me and he goes, how the hell do you know that's going to happen? I'm like, it just, I see it. I see it coming.
Right.
So when I don't see things coming, or I just go into something, or I read something that I don't have any preconception of, that's always fun for me.
Nice.
But no, I don't. I mean, I look at the pictures. I'm very, especially as the pictures are so important to me. Like I've adopted the Stanley old school Jack Kirby way of just giving, here's what happens, and letting the artists come back to me, unless it's something very specific where it has to make, that scene has to be important to something else. Right. A lot of times, especially with Spicy Pulp, I'm just kind of like, this is what happens. Go for it. Let me see what you're going to come up with. Like just because we were working on a book for DC at one point, and I don't want to say anything bad, but I was kind of amazed at how, given the opportunity to be as creative as you want, I was seeing stuff I had seen before. Like, isn't there like this moment where you want to just like, no one's looking, go ahead, go do that thing you've always wanted to do. Go draw the alien no one ever, you can't draw. So that's to me, that's fun. And the problem too with right now reading stuff is that there's a lot of recycling going on. So, when you realize, I was talking about, Daredevil, reading Daredevil, getting subscriptions, and then, you see it and everyone's like, wow, do you see this hot new show Daredevil? Or you see these, what are these Avengers things? It's stuff that's been around for so long that I'm glad that they're enjoying it. But for me, I'm like, what are we doing now? What's
right. Well, and the movies have always been interesting because I go into the movies and I love comic books and I love all the characters. It goes back to the ADD thing. I never was great at going back to the comic shop, either every couple of weeks, weekly, whatever it was, to keep up on the storylines and read the single issue comics as they came out. I'm more of like, I get the trade paperback so I can read the whole story at once. But when it comes to the comic movies, everybody wants them to be exactly like the comics. Right. And I never understand that, because that story's been told once. We've already had that story. We've already seen it. Now it's cool when you make some of the iconic scenes so you get to see them in a real life thing. Right. But I like that Marvel twists things a little bit and creates, it's some Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's this universe's story. If you want the original story, go read the comic book again. Right. And that's like some of the DC cartoon movies are fantastic, but almost some of those are just taking it directly from the comics and just making it an animated version, which is a cool thing. And they keep it in the animated style. So I guess that works.
Right.
But you can kind of go, well, that's going to happen. That's going to happen because you've already read that story.
Sure.
So we're getting into the last few minutes of the show. Thank you everybody for popping in on a Sunday morning and watching and being a part of it. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the show, go subscribe to on all your favorite podcast apps or YouTube channels. Just type in Back Talk with Bauer and you'll be able to find me. So let's get in, back to talking about Spicy Pulp. And again, it's fully funded. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't back it. You can.
I want to get these guys working on the next thing. And
yeah, there's always the next one. There's more stories to tell, and the more that this one makes, the more they can tell on to the next story.
Yep.
So we're into stretch goals, and for those that are not familiar, once you hit the fully funded thing, if a certain campaign plans it out enough, there's certain stretch goals you can hit, and every so many thousand extra or whatever it is, however they set the goals up, you get even more special items. So what are some of the stretch goals that have already been hit, and what's the last one that is planned out that we have not hit yet?
They are prints, and they have some are going to have spot finish, some are going to have holographic, and their artwork from the covers, and the prints are a size that'll fit within the comic itself, so that I don't have to worry about damages, because for some reason the post office likes to play Dungeons and Dragons with the packages. I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing. It's amazing the amount of armor I put into one of these packages, and somehow I get pictures. I'm like, it looks like they took a chainsaw to it or something. But yeah, so there's print stretch goals. Because it helps keep the packages tight together, and it gives you cool artwork that's separate from the comics. Very cool. And then I'm going to do a secret PDF stretch goal. It's not going to be much further past where we're at now, but just something fun and extra to put in there. Nice. I mean, I'm really, really happy with the way it's been going. This is on par to be my best Kickstarter yet.
Fantastic.
And since number 2, but they've all worked. They've all been funded. Right. They've all enabled me to keep these artists employed and keep the stories going, which is basically what happens is this will pay for this book and start paying into the next book so I can get them working. This is the first book that's been 100% done before the campaign ends. Usually they finish up in the middle of the campaign, but this one's all done. So it's just printing and shipping that's left to do.
Very cool. Very cool. So where can people, like, if they want to follow you, support what you do, keep up on the next one, where can they find you on social media, and how can they support you?
I do some social media. I don't do a lot. I don't really.
Yeah, I couldn't find you anywhere.
It's right. I had like almost 6,000 followers on Twitter, and I just walked away from Twitter. Okay. People were starting to attack me for things that I pretty much keep my head to the grindstone. Like, I don't get involved in anything else. Okay. Because if it's not making me money, I don't know why I should be worried about what's happening with other people's money. So whatever happens, I'm usually the last one to know, and it's usually a surprise to me. I'm like, wait, I don't know why everyone's angry about something. So, I mean, and I will admit I'm a little bit salty on Facebook, but I am on Facebook. So it's a separate thing from whatever. Like, I get mad about stuff, and then I don't keep my posts. I don't see the point in having every year of my life documented to every time I said something stupid, because I say stupid stuff all the time. I'm really good at saying stupid stuff. Okay. But yeah, I mean, jvgrade.com is the website that I deal with. I am on Facebook. It's pretty easy to find me. I'm on Twitter, but I don't use it. Yeah. For some reason, I have a massive following on Pinterest, which I don't. We'll get all the crafters and moms to follow you on Pinterest. I'm like, how do I have 800,000 followers or impressions a day? And like, it doesn't, like, I don't know. I've had a few different conversations, because I've done a couple of my shows the last couple of weeks, and then I was on another podcast, and we were talking about how things hit and how things go, and like, you know, I've had little viral moments where I get not much of anything, but I've been doing this
in one way or another for the past 7 years or so. So it's rough trying to figure out where to go. I've been on every website, I've been on everything, and I get little things. And then like somebody goes and posts a picture of a cat or some goofy thing, or like I'm new on TikTok now, so like people just do these, and some are very cool. That I've actually learned that TikTok, it's not all crap. It really is. There's some really cool stuff in there. Very creative people. But then other people like just take a video of something random and they get like a gajillion followers. And I'm sitting here going, I'm actually creating things and I get like 2 likes. What am I doing wrong? It's been very weird. But yeah, it's, you know, wherever you can find Justin, please follow him. I know Terry,
Facebook page,
page. Yeah. And make sure to follow him on Pinterest too. And then shout out to Terry MacGyver all the way in Ireland, the social media guru of HWWS WebTV. You can, he dropped the direct link to Kickstarter on there. So shout out to the Terry MacGyver. You can find me on, I know Paul just asked, just type in Josh Bauer, and Bauer is Bauer, and you should be able to find me. But yeah, thank you, Justin, so much for taking time out of your Sunday morning to chat with me. It was very cool. It's very nice to chat with you. Hopefully I get to meet you in person and get you to sign some of the ones that I have from Jimmy, because that'd be cool to have both of you guys on there. So hopefully we'll be able to go to conventions sometime this century.
Yeah, now I want to go to a convention and I can't. So
yeah, it's been long enough because I got burned out from them, doing them for five or 6 years in a row, and I kind of got burned out and walk away. And there's a little part of me going, yeah, I'm actually starting to miss them now. It's mostly I miss my friends. You don't realize how many friends you make in the convention world, and there's people that know me that I don't even know I know them, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen you forever. I'm like, so yeah, you go into, we're almost, at least in Florida, we're almost to that year mark of not seeing everybody. And it sucks. I've run into a few people here and there, but I know there's a good group of people that I have not seen. So hopefully sometime soon we'll be.
Yeah, there's a lot of creators I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to see them again.
But we'll keep, hopefully in another year or so, or towards the end of the year, things will start getting better. But again, thank you, Justin. Please follow Justin on wherever you can find him. Follow the Kickstarter. You can even just donate if you don't want stuff. If you just want to put in $5, $1, you know, any little bit of money goes a long way. So please support Justin. If you like this show, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the artwork on the walls, any of that stuff, head over to jbauerart.com. You can find all my social media, all the stuff to buy things, limited edition prints, paintings, all that good stuff. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, or the J Bauer Art YouTube channel, or HWWS YouTube channel. And this episode is also sponsored by and powered by nsclive.com, nsclivetv.com. I didn't bring up my thing like I was supposed to towards the end of the show because I got too interested in my conversation. But yeah, NSC Live TV is the comic book network created by Geeks for Geeks. If you like this show or shows like this, if you're looking for new podcasts, artists to support, different comic shops all around the country, head over to nsclivetv.com. They have different channels and spots for everybody. They kind of run like a TV network, so everybody's got their own channel. You click on it, and it'll take you to all the different stuff. So you can find comic shops that aren't even in your neighborhood, and maybe find some cool stuff that you haven't been in before. If you're trying to find Justin's Power Girl or the any of his other comics, and you want to get a bunch of them now to read them, you know, find your favorite comic book shop and give them a message and see if they send stuff to you. So shout out to nsclivetv.com. Other than that, I will catch you guys next week. Later.